I see a lot of people still joining, and I'll kind of introduce, and then we'll kick over to Matt and Richard, who are going to run the majority of the conversation today. But I wanted to welcome everybody. My name is Robbie Peters. I'm the co-founder of an organization called People Tech Partners, and we've actually known Richard and the Bright Day team for a couple of years now. Richard, probably at least over a year, maybe 18 months. And it's been fun to obviously watch the progress and get to work together. Matt, I know you and I haven't interfaced as much, but actually know quite a bit of the other folks on the Airbnb team. Q Hamarini is actually one of our members of People Tech, and he spent a lot of time in working with us and behind the vision. And so it was really appreciative of you obviously coming to spend time today and talk about this topic. And I think this is a very interesting topic for us to be working together towards. So for those of you who aren't familiar with People Tech and kind of what we're really out there doing, we're an organization of about close to 200 HR leaders across mainly high growth technology companies that actually dedicate time on a quarterly basis to spend with companies that are building technology that's selling into HR leaders. Anything across from how do I take care of my employees' performance, their learning and development, recruiting, all the way out to how do I take care of my employees' mental health, their financial well-being, their new parent initiatives. And when Richard and I got originally introduced in what they were doing at Bright Day and how they were coming in to help on the ergonomics front, I thought it was an awesome opportunity to partner together. So we've partnered for quite some time. And, on the other side of it, Matt, who is at Airbnb and runs all of their kind of global manager of health and safety at Airbnb, I know has worked very closely with Richard as a customer and also, kind of as a industry expert. And that's what we're all about at People Tech, is bringing together industry experts in the HR side to pair with up and coming technology that's trying to do innovative things to better our companies. And so what we like to do in many of these situations is really dive deep on certain topics. And today we're going to talk a lot about kind of workforce ergonomics, the new trends, the problems and the solutions that we're seeing. Matt and Richard will be walking us through some great prepared panel and question sets, and then at the end we'll open up for about 10 minutes of questions on folks here as well. But as there's been a lot of changes in companies, not only opening multi-offices, going distributed, not having set desks, there's really been a lot of change. And Airbnb, I know, has gone through a lot of that. I think opening over 30 offices, I believe now, and 8 alone in San Francisco, it sounds like. So really just appreciative of Matt and Richard spending the time here to facilitate an amazing discussion. And I will kick it over at this point to you guys there.
Cheers, Robbie. Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. Welcome. As Matt said, as Robbie said, we're going to cover ergonomics, new trends, problems, and solutions. I will kind of do a relatively deep dive into those with Matt. If it all goes to plan, you should hear about 85% from Matt and 90% from Matt, as little from me as possible. But we might dive in and out of some stuff. And I think, what's so interesting for us as a startup has been able to come into a progressive, fast-growing company like Airbnb that is highly distributed and has the very latest in sort of workforce technology, workforce policy around how to look after their people and how to be progressive. So, Matt, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks to People Tech Partners for having me. It's great to be here. And yeah, I understand maybe that there might be a lot of people from the HR world. At Airbnb, health and safety falls under the greater umbrella of employee experience as far as the internal facing functions of health and safety. And just a little bit more about myself. I've been with Airbnb for about 3.5 years. And as Robbie said, I'm responsible for all internally facing health and safety initiatives. So Ergonomics is one of my programs, and it's a program and topic that I've been involved with for many years in safety, both on giving a lot of ergonomic evaluations, helping companies form their own ergonomics programs. Before I came to work here at Airbnb, I had a consulting firm for about 8 years. And it's a lot of companies address it in a lot of ways, as we're going to talk about a little bit today. Things have changed a lot and are going to continue to change when it comes to how ergonomics is managed. And once again, it's just great to be here, and thanks for the invite.
Great. So you should be seeing on your screen something that some of you will likely have seen before, which harks back 50 odd years, which for me was as a young person. Matt wasn't even born. But I just love this slide because I think it, although this is 50 years ago, here we're seeing, the very first iterations of, fixed desk workplace. And actually, there's a lot there that we still have today. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could see some type of pointing device or mouse in the picture, and they have their monitor and their office chair, and the guy over there on the left's got some documents he might be looking at periodically on his left over there.
Yeah. I mean, I just love the mouse and I'm not sure what he's doing with his left hand. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, not sure.
Yeah. But suffice to say that, this setup, 50 plus years old, we've got modern day versions of this. And really, I think for the first time, what we're seeing is, out of that long period where, we were developing cubicle-orientated workforces, is that we've now arrived at this new place. And with that new place, this new trend towards unassigned, which, I mean, you at Airbnb you're right at the forefront of that.
Yeah, I mean, we're really trying to push more toward unassigned seating in some departments and some buildings. For years, we've been in a model, and it continues to evolve, and it continues to get more people working toward that model and trying to overcome objections of different departments and their needs. And it's, like I said, it's very much an evolution. Still, some things are very much the same as those pictures, though. I mean, we have a lot of people that are still need to use keyboards, still need to use a monitor, some kind of pointing device. But overall, in the way that offices are changing, yeah, I mean, it's even just the hard-walled office for a lot of people, especially when you in the past when you're at a certain level. And then we had a long period of time where individual workers were in cubicles and had kind of your own dedicated space. And especially in tech, I see really everybody moving more toward open kind of offices, getting rid of the cubicle walls, more of desks and groups and people working in a little bit more informal type of atmosphere than what I saw earlier in my career.
And it goes without saying, you've got obviously a lot of offices to cover and a lot of different geographic regions and a lot of different legal aspect to that as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we just passed 38 different offices globally, and we in a meeting recently on the greater safety and security team that we have, we kind of had a joke that Airbnb has provided support on all continents. Airbnb had a expedition kind of externally facing event down in Antarctica that's wrapping up actually right now. So some of our safety and security team provides some services for that. So yeah, I mean, it's been explosive growth too. We've added almost 2,000 employees just this year in 2018, and it's going to continue to grow. So yeah. We not only just in a lot of geographic locations, each location has its own kind of culture, and you try to keep some things standardized, but be flexible with the program when, and not every office is built at the same time. So the standards evolve, and those are some of the other things I think we'll be talking about.
Yeah. So as we so before we address some of the problems and some of the challenges that you have with dealing with a highly distributed unassigned workforce, I think it's worth just digging into why this trend has come about. What do you see as the advantages? What are the management of Airbnb gathering around as to why this is the way to go?
Well, and we are going to eventually talk about the pluses and the minuses, but right now focusing on advantages. Even up to our CEO, the first two things that you see on the list right here, community and office energy and buzz, is something that's really, really important to us at Airbnb. Even though we're, not necessarily the newest company, and we're getting kind of big right now, we still are really trying in a number of ways to maintain some of that energy that was there when we were a very small startup company. And some of that is just a perception and how the feel of the offices, which are not really concrete things that you can quantify to some extent, but a sense of community, a sense that it's easy to talk with other people that are working in your department, a flexibility to sit with people in different teams. And, we even have some debates going back and forth, and I'm obviously pressing for monitors, but, there's even a lot of our team members want to get rid of even things like external monitors if we can, or some of them, just to keep some of that face-to-face contact. And the open office environment in general, regardless of unassigned, really, really helps with that. Space planning, space utilization, all of that is part of the driver for going to unassigned workspaces as well. When you're growing a lot like Airbnb is, you run out of space quickly, especially when you have just an amazing recruiting team that's really trying to push to meet our very difficult goals. So, we in some buildings, some places around the world, it's not the quickest process to get your space built out. And we've done a number of usability studies and counting how many people are using. And in some of our studies, we found that, some desks are really only used in some offices 30% of the time. So 70% of the time you have all these open desks. And we got pretty granular with it here at Airbnb, as far as down to different departments. And some departments are heavier workstation users than others. A lot of departments here are more social and less individual contributors. So the meetings and the workload is a lot more team based. We find that having extra space so people can break off and make phone calls, that can become a disadvantage. But it also it allows for some natural evolution of your space and how it's used. Flexibility is pretty easy to see how unassigned workspace. I mean, I've sat in a different place every day. I've been in the office this week, and my team moved today, so I'm in a whole new office area in one of our buildings. But so you have the space. We have ratios for different departments on how many desks we're assigning to the groups based on usability studies. And the only way that we could meet some of our space challenges right now is by having some of these unassigned areas, just from a space perspective, and from just being responsible with how you're using your resources. Nobody wants to have 70% of desks and monitors just sitting there unused throughout the day. I mean, that's just not the best use of your facility in general.
So generally speaking, it's productivity of people and productivity of space.
Those are intended advantages, and we'll get into some of the not challenges. Actually, if you don't even need to bring it back up. Standardization. There were a couple more things on that list that I think just deserve a little bit of a mention. Standardization does become easier when you go to unassigned seating. The same resources available in kind of the same areas, and we even found what we thought would be a challenge on some of the cleanliness with unassigned workstations. When you do take the time to clean them, that you can get a more deep clean at the end of each day if some of the rules of your unassigned seating program are followed. So, and yeah, here we are looking at challenges.
Yeah. Suddenly the flip side.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yep.
So I know that obviously for you, I think was it in the summer that there was we're going fully unassigned at Airbnb worldwide.
We opened up a new building. So as I mentioned a little bit earlier, we have some different offices that have been using this model for years. So, we have an office in Portland that's had unassigned seating for multiple departments for as long as I've worked at Airbnb. I've seen the pendulum kind of switch in some of our San Francisco building in the time that I've been here, starting off with no assigned desks. It seemed for a little while we were kind of going more toward having individual assigned workstations. And yes, in the last year, we really doubled down on our program for unassigned work. We call it neighborhood desking at Airbnb.
Got it.
So it's really neighborhood based, and your team is allocated a certain number of spaces, based on how many people you have and what that ratio is that I was kind of talking about for usability. But yeah, we opened up one of our largest buildings this summer in San Francisco, and we decided that this whole building was going to be unassigned, our neighborhood desking model. So we're really moving more and more in that direction. And also, like I said, we're pushing teams that are resisting. We're working with them. We're trying to figure out what their objections are and how we can overcome them, and trying to get as many teams as possible moved over to this model.
Got it.
And I see that continuing.
Yeah, and obviously when you talk about unassigned, the first thing we all think about is, well, hold on a sec. I'm not going to the same desk every day. I haven't got my desk set up, which I probably got organized for me with an ergonomist when I arrived in the company. I was given that opportunity. I got set up. It was great. Now I'm 5 different places over the course of the week.
Yep.
How are you handling that at 100,000 feet?
Well, as you might imagine, there's a lot of feedback that comes in from employees, and I think that's an important part of the loop, is really trying to listen and let employees check in with that. And I have to say that the way you described it as a coin, there are two sides to the coin. We're looking right now at the challenges. I can't stress that enough. And even as the person, there were times during this process of really doubling down on this where I was probably one of the biggest detractors toward the unassigned working model, and I still have some reservations when I'm looking at it from the ergonomics standpoint only. And so we have challenges that are ergonomic related. We have challenges that are just team and how they're viewing how they function. But strictly from the ergonomics perspective, I had a lot of concerns like the ones that we could see here on the screen. Even in the planning stages, like what equipment are we going to make standard at every desk? How are we going to handle people's individual ergonomic needs when they have very, very particular accessories, for example, sometime, or they have a chair that it meets their specific needs. It's not the standard chair.
And we'll get a chance to focus in on what that advanced program looks like.
Sure.
A little bit later on, because I know that really what you've done is build the program to deal with that challenge.
From the ergonomics side, the whole neighborhood desking and going to unassigned working, we had to form a task force that included a lot of stakeholders in the company. So not just on the health and safety side, not just on the facility side, but we really try to include the lines of business, people from talent, people from HR, a lot of different groups had input. Obviously, IT has a lot of input as far as the equipment. So there are a lot of different stakeholders that need to be included really early if you're thinking about moving toward a program like this in order to avoid a lot of headaches later.
Yeah, when we talk about the specifics of unassigned, let's go to the generic here, the general causes, because as a entrepreneur coming into the space, not as a trained ergonomist, I was utterly staggered that we would go and we would meet with a company with 10,000 plus employees, and there would be one ergonomist on staff. And they would maybe have 5, 10 locations which they had to manage. And I would sort of say, well, how do you do that? And the answer very clearly was, well, we just do the best we can. We simply cannot cope with the amount of requests that we have, the amount of needs that are out there. There's just not and I was just like, it feels to me a little bit like the EHS managers are kind of left with an awful lot to do with minimum resource.
And I bet a lot of people on this call will attest that it's not just EHS managers. The ergonomics hat falls on a lot of different people. Before I came to Airbnb, there was a period of time where somebody from HR was in charge of ergonomics. And then after that, somebody from facilities was in charge of ergonomics. And then a security manager, before there were anybody in health and safety also was the manager. So ergonomics is often like a hot potato in an organization that doesn't have a formal program yet as far as who is responsible for it. And I think that that's also, what your example, I've talked to many people who are in that position as well. And that even could end up being its own webinar on like how do you decide how to handle this ergonomics problem. But yeah, the people like you're talking about, like one person that's responsible for doing all the evaluations in multiple locations, that would be a lot of, that would be a lot. I have to say, I mean, I feel really blessed to be part of Airbnb and how receptive they've been since I've joined to give me the resources to build the ergonomics program that we have right now. And they really take a view of my upper management that it's an important thing for the company, for all the employees. They understand a lot of the connection to productivity. And they understand that a lot of times, especially for people who don't want to read a ton of lengthy documents and explanations, understanding that what the return on investment is and how this affects teams. So it's like I said, I'm very blessed that I have resources. Not every company does. And so there are a number of different tools and ways that you can build your ergonomics program based on, start with the resources that you have, think about how much you can get done. We're going to get into talking about tools. So
yeah, great.
And I would agree also on this slide, just not even tied to unassigned desking, but for ergonomics in general, there is a huge gap in education. Especially at Airbnb, we have a young workforce. A lot of the people that we hire, this is the first job that they've had. And I talk to people all the time and they don't get any education. They don't get a lot of training in it. So the first point of contact they're getting is often with the companies.
Yeah. And I think that brings us to the kind of question that one of the reasons that my co-founders and I started Bright Day was, we're parents of young children. We see how much they're on their computers, etc. And it's a serious problem. And Peter and I attended the Ergonomics Expo last year. I remember there's a presentation that asked the exact question, are you hiring your next back claim? So that's not my original, I can't remember who it was, but whoever it is, thank you. Are you hiring your next back claim, your next big claim? And, the fact is that, obviously the youngsters are using computers, etc., much earlier in life. And that surely is manifesting itself as those individuals come into the workforce. And just to think that a third of the Gen Z will make up the population by 2020. Between millennials and Gen Z, that'll be 75% of the working population by 2025.
Yeah,
so
amazing.
You have a pretty young workforce here at Airbnb.
We do, yeah, we do, and and it's, you have to think about how you connect with them and how you have to think about this, because a lot of the problems that you're going to develop, like we're looking at here, like back pain and cost to the company, sometimes just looking at some of these statistics when you might be like 24, 25 years old, and you're just starting at a company, that might not be the best way to get through to them. I mean, I find myself, especially talking to younger workers, really trying to ask them questions about what's important to them, especially activities outside of work. I remember talking with somebody who loved to do water skiing, and and I just started to connect with ergonomics and water skiing. Like a couple things come into mind, like you got to hold on pretty tight when you're water skiing, and if your hands and your wrists aren't working, maybe when you get into your 40s or 50s, you may need to kind of stop doing that, and then let alone your back. You're gonna have a hard time water skiing with a lot of back pain. So whatever little connection I can find that's a personal kind of connection. The other statistic, or just something to think about that's not even up here that I think is related, is just how many people are dealing with some pain that is tied to ergonomics. and they think it's something that they can just cope with or deal with, or it's like a normal part of life. And some statistics that I've seen will show that it's in the 60 to 70% of people that are experiencing some pain that's due to ergonomics. They don't report it. And but yeah, those are big numbers. And then when you start really thinking about it from a productivity standpoint, it can be hard to quantify. But when you have somebody that's just sitting at their desk and their back hurts, that is really affecting how much output, how much work you're getting out of that employee.
Yeah, and so at Airbnb, you've got this youngish workforce, what, 30 years old on average or something?
Yeah, I think the last I saw, we were some in the low 30s, and when I started, the average age was less than 30.
So what, roughly speaking, would of the workforce population will have an ergonomic assessment in the course of a year?
Well, I'm just getting all of my 2019 figures in, but from 2018, we had, I believe it was 900 or so of our employees got either an in-person ergonomic evaluation, a video virtual evaluation, and then we had a couple hundred more that used our self-assessment tool that we also launched in the beginning of 2018.
So around 20%.
At that time, yeah, about 20, a little bit more than 20% in 2018. And from the numbers that I'm seeing kind of coming in for 2019, it's a little bit higher, probably 25 to 30% received like personal care when it comes to ergonomics.
So this is not an old person's problem.
No, absolutely.
I always believed, before I got into this and started learning, that this was something that I don't need to worry about this until I'm older. But clearly that's not the case.
If you had that attitude, you will have to worry about it when you're older.
Very good. Now, it's kind of moving on. I think it's just, it seems to me what you've done at Airbnb is, we've got this notion of a maturity curve. Where are you on the sort of evolution of your ergonomics program? And I think on the call, we've got such a wide array of super interesting companies, from extremely large, older companies to newer startups, etc. Where do you see Airbnb now on that curve? Where do you see generically where the market is, and kind of comment on that, Matt?
I feel at Airbnb, I would put us somewhere in between the proactive and the advanced. And there are probably some things that we're doing that a lot of companies will really view as very advanced. I guess I'm kind of a hard grader on myself. So, but I would say we've definitely been in the proactive stage for at least a couple of years. And we're like somewhere in the green, yellow, a little bit into the advanced part if I'm judging it on this curve. Now, what would I say the average company is at? I mean, it varies. When I had my consulting practice, it was a lot of small and medium-sized companies that I was helping, and especially smaller and medium-sized companies I would say a lot of them are a lot further down to the left on the reactive or slightly preventative on end of the scale. So.
And I think one of the things that I remember you saying to me is that this, building an ergonomics program it's actually not a program, it's a process.
It never ends. Because just like any kind of program, at least the way that I want to put them together, there's just the cycle of, looking at what you want to do, stating goals, planning for how you're going to execute it, reviewing what you've done, and then, starting that circle over again. So,
which is a perfect segue into, okay, so you're at this more advanced phase of building out a maturity curve. What does that look like? This advanced program that you've put in place, there's a lot of different aspects to that. Let's talk about that and kind of dig in, because I think for a lot of people on the call, it's going to be like the things out of here that they're going to really relate to as the things that they can put into their plans or will want to investigate further.
Well, I think this slide covers a big part of it, and it's how you communicate and how you interact with the employees with your ergonomics program. At Airbnb, their first week of employment we call it our check-in. It's like the orientation process. and we get a little bit of time to talk about health and safety, and we make ergonomics one of the topics, and we introduce two employees right then on how they can request help, but we encourage them to request help. Part of the presentation that I made sure that's in there, and when I do it, I'm saying it, but as part of the script for it is, regarding the ergonomics program, the best time to get engaged is in your first week or two of work. Especially working here at Airbnb, things start to happen very fast and everybody gets busy. So, just really reaching out to them. We also have, as far as outreach, we're constantly trying to put new little tidbits of ads on digital displays, and we send emails out at different times of employment based on how long you've been at the company. Mm-hmm. So there are a lot. We also typically have some workshops throughout the year with some of the different vendors that we utilize based on different parts of the program. So some of them are focused on like the furniture that we have. Some of them are even focused on when you're experiencing pain, in addition to like getting an evaluation. But like some of our other providers we can get in that can show you techniques and some of the equipment that we have, where people can physically get some help with some relief. So. But it's just constant communication and having a plan. Our team in general, for all of health and safety, we're finalizing our 2020 comms plan, and ergonomics is a big part of that. We are looking to organize a posture month for 2020 as part of our ergonomics program as well. But a lot of outreach and planned in advance and branding, all of that stuff makes the program happen a lot smoother, and you get a lot more engagement.
Yeah, and that kind of, we arrive at this place, which is the next piece that I'd love to talk about, which is the adoption software. So I know that PB Ergo, Vivian's company, I think Vivian's on the call. Hi, Vivian.
Yeah.
Hey, Vivian. Has been instrumental in introducing that to Airbnb.
Yeah, absolutely. PB Ergo has been a fantastic partner for Airbnb for many years. Both on helping with in-person evaluations throughout the United States, and really been essential for the digital and the technology parts of our ergonomics program. They've been just great with helping us put together our hub or our ergonomics platform, where our employees go to get all the information about whether it's educational or scheduling evaluations. And then the back end of that too, which I'm just really proud of, the work that we've done with PB Ergo, which basically what I'm talking about is anywhere around the world, when somebody gets an ergonomic evaluation, the data from that evaluation is put into the same system, and it's based on the same capture, so that it makes it really easy for me to look at all that data for planning purposes, for metrics. And I know that everybody around the world is getting the same type of ergonomic evaluation when they request that level of help.
And that's the beauty of software.
Is
that it gives us consistency, it gives us data, and it allows us to be, really give the same product across our workforce. And that's a great segment at this point. We would love to show you all a short video of Bright Day's program, which is ergonomics guidance software, which Matt started to pilot in the early summer.
Yep.
And I'm delighted to say we're going to a worldwide rollout in 2020. So we're going to show a video, and then we're going to talk a bit more about that and dive into software some more.
The goal of the whole software is to make you sit and feel
Thanks,
better.
Robbie.
That's why we onboarded the educational component and combine it with the tracking, so that you're gaining awareness and knowledge at the same time. And that combination makes it so powerful. We created a whole library of videos so that it's fun to click around and explore what to do with your hands, with your arms. And there's always something new to learn.
It doesn't matter if you use sit-stand desks or work at home. Bright Day goes with you wherever you go.
We use any webcam, even the one embedded in your laptop, to help you fix your posture. We don't save any video to the cloud. We don't record anything to the computer. And this is super powerful. Our breakthrough is we can use everyday off-the-shelf computers to do this very complicated thing of finding where you are in three-dimensional space. Once I've got my good initial posture, I'm going to get slowly sucked into my computer. You can see that Bright Day notices it. It goes dark green. If I don't notice that, it's going to escalate into an avatar. That avatar will move with me in real time. And what it's doing with users is it's training you to get back to that good position. At the end of your session, we show you your main tendencies. So it can tell me that I'm leaning in and that I'm leaning left. It's going to do these calculations to figure out where you are and to give you that good feedback for your next session.
These solutions bring about behavior change. Everybody should have good posture and minimum sedentary behavior. This is just good wellness practice. Okay, so sorry about the tech glitch. I think we didn't have any sound early on. Hopefully you can hear us all again now. So let's go into a little bit more about what, why Bright Day, why we devised Bright Day, which is this notion of, combining, the core principles of behavior change, which are learn something, get some instruction, then go and practice what you've learned, and then get some feedback and some data from that, and then repeat. And so, that's the kind of basis of what we've done in building Bright Day. And, to make that as usable and as easy for people to get involved with during that already crazy busy day. So i.e. while they're working. So Matt, have you seen anything like this? Is this?
Well, no, I mean, this is one of the reasons why I, from the first time I met, I've been interested in Bright Day. And, I could just relate it a little bit like this. Because I've been so involved with ergonomics and I've helped a lot of my coworkers, even after they've had ergonomic evaluations through our vendors. I'm the kind of person, especially after I know you, if I see you kind of like really in an awful posture, you're not using your equipment, I'll come up behind somebody and I'll say something to them, especially if I know them. And what I find, like, especially if I know somebody, is that they needed a reminder and they were happy to get that reminder. But I'm just one person, and I can't be there looking at everybody's posture and giving them reminders. And this is what the tool does, is it helps you, like a buddy that's sitting there watching you and going to give you a little nudge if you want it and when you want it, to help you maintain the posture that you're looking for. And there are a lot of different types of software that's been out there, but Bright Day is the first software that I've had the chance to look at that does that active monitoring and uses it in a way that is intended to help you build so that you by yourself can change your behavior over time, and that you don't need as many reminders. But the idea of having people out there that know after a little bit of education, or in this case, they can even get a lot of that education through the tool, what to do, but they're their own worst enemy as far as, maintaining that posture and remembering and putting it, really keeping active with that proper posture.
And to that, one of the things that we designed with Bright Day is that it is designed to pop up, every day. So that you get the opportunity to use it, you can delay it, you can say not today, you can skip it, etc. But one of the things that we wanted to spend a lot of time was on this notion of just having it available all the time, so that people can almost treat it like a video call. It's like, oh my God, this is my Bright Day session. And we've also had really interesting feedback from a lot of your employees that are like, actually, that's their reminder to focus on their posture.
Yep.
So even if they don't want to do a session, they still get that behavior change nudge.
Yep, by clicking, no, I'm not ready to do it. I'm not ready to do it right now.
Yeah. I don't think I even showed you the slide, but this is the power of small nudge improvements. Mm-hmm. And when you look at it from a statistical perspective, if you actually just improve something 1% a day, imagine your guitar playing that, for example. If you could improve that 1% each day, you'd be 37 times better by the end of the year. And of course, it works the other way if you lose performance.
Yep.
So it's this notion that if we can just nudge our way, if we can do a small amount on a fairly regular basis, we can see decent incremental change. And I think that's what we hope to achieve with your workforce.
And it happens on, from the more people that you involve, it's like a macro level. And then really for me, it's something for each individual that they can customize for themselves.
Great. I think we kind of covered a lot of these subjects. And I know I'm just conscious of the fact that we're running at about 40 minutes. So we're going to keep going forward here. And I think that let's talk about the actual program that we did with the rollout with you, because I think there's a lot of aspects to this. Do you want to kind of go through,
Sure,
how we started and went through that?
Well, and I actually met Richard at a wellness event that was, I would say, a little bit over a year ago, and we started talking about Bright Day, and like I said, I was interested in it from the first time that I heard the description of what it was. We went through a lot of different steps with Bright Day just to make sure that it would work and be accepted by and go through all the approvals that we need in order to get into Airbnb. One of the big things that we had to overcome was just a security and privacy review. That's really important to everybody here at Airbnb. And so I actually asked our IT security department to really put Bright Day through the ringer, because I know it's using the camera, and I know what our company's attitude is toward security and privacy. And as Jim said in the video earlier, they're not transmitting any of your video or storing it in a cloud. It's really just in order to set the initial posture, and then it judges it against itself. So they were able to get through that grueling security and privacy review, and that took longer than I thought it was going to, and I'm sure it was not the easiest work on Bright Day's end, but they made it through. Then we had a number, like we can read through here, promotional videos and email campaigns. The Bright Day team came out and did a lot of in-person interviews even before we launched it, just to kind of assess what the need was and how to have an effective rollout for what our goal was for piloting this program. It also happened at the time that we were moving in to this building that we were discussing a little bit earlier on the call, that is all in the open and unassigned neighborhood desking model, which was the timing worked out really nicely, because in my opinion, software like Bright Day, especially when people are moving around a lot, it's something that can be constant and help them wherever they're working. So we did a town hall for everybody that's moving into this building, and that was another time that we announced that we were doing this pilot as another resource for people who might be having a hard time ergonomically adjusting to this unassigned seating model. And then we incorporated Bright Day in our annual wellness and benefits fair a few months back, and had made sure that employees had another way to see what Bright Day was and how to get involved. Then we lot more activities. Gene Couch came out for some posture workshop. We had meetings with a lot of our other existing ergonomic and wellness service providers, like PB Ergo mentioned before, and they've been great help with reviewing and checking out the software, and been a good partner for helping us implement it. More email and follow-ups, and we're working toward a really robust posture month, and we've had a lot of good response from the employees that have been using Bright Day. And as Richard said before, we're looking next year, we're going to be making it available wherever you're working from Airbnb.
Yeah, and one of the things we actually developed in lockstep with you was, what sort of data can we give you that's actually useful for you? And so, you'll see this is actually a snapshot, and you'll see that number of the workforce engaged. That's after this 3-month period, and our aim as a company is to our KPI with Airbnb is to have that number close up to around 8% by the end of the next year, so 12 months from now. And we kind of feel that that's doable based upon what we've seen, based upon the access that we have and the programs that we know you're comfortable.
And remember, we're not forcing anybody to do this. That's not. We don't have a lot of, unless it's like absolutely regulatory requirement to make things like this mandatory. So it's really about people who get a little bit of a nudge toward it, and then they want to do it, and they decide to continue to use it and to initially use it.
Yeah, and we talked about engagement. What else are you looking at, that you want to see out of the program?
Well, one, I'm looking forward to people in some different regions using it just because all of our offices kind of have their own culture and their the design as we build them, it changes. So and some offices are better and some are worse at giving constructive feedback about some of it. So, but yeah, I mean, I'd like to see engagement continue to rise. I would really like to continue to read some of the feedback from employees that are saying how this is improving their experience here working at Airbnb, and yeah, just hearing how it's been a useful tool and not something that is kind of like a nuisance to them.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we've done and we will continue to do over the course of the year is survey the employees around this notion of how much have they learned? What's the do they feel more educated about posture than they did prior, number one. Number two, do they feel like from a corporate social responsibility perspective that this is useful? Do they feel looked after? Number two, and then we're kind of playing around with productivity, I know, and it's a tough one to single out with posture.
Well, and it's the engagement overall. I think that's important, right? It's a tool that is available once they have it and they're using it. It's available as much as they want to use it. So, like for example, if we have somebody that's using it, a few times a week on an ongoing basis, and they're watching some of the educational videos, it just really shows that they are spending a little bit of time engaged. And really, once you know some of the basics, it is very much it's putting it into practice, and it's reminders, and it's trying to get yourself and your behavior so that you don't need as many of those reminders.
And as we've talked about, it's not a replacement for assessment,
nope.
but it's an addendum to it. It's something that can be done alongside of assessment.
It can, and I think that the future is going to show probably some uses even that maybe we're not even fully seeing yet for how some of the data and for how it can be used, and yeah, there's an educational component to it, and then there's the functional the posture watch. So there are a lot of different ways to engage with it.
Yeah, and just to conclude, so for us as a startup in the space, we're super excited to be rolling out with you to all of the Airbnb locations, and to everybody on the call. We're ready to take on some more companies in Q1 of 2020, and please do send me an email, richard@brightday.com, and I'd love to share with you more details about that program that we initiated with Airbnb, and have some of you come and join us. And with that, Matt, thanks so much. Lots of terrific information.
Yep, thanks for having me.
And we're going to throw it over to Q&A. And I vote for Airbnb, so do I.
Oh, thanks, Tammy.
Yeah. So what is the cost of this? So what we've done with Airbnb is we charged a upfront fee of $15,000, and then we charge a per user per month rate of $8 per user per month through this first phase of the program, the first 3 months. And as we move into wider adoption, that per user per month rate will drop substantially towards the $2 area, depending on numbers, etc. As we move into a wider deployment. So there's a little bit of service fee and a per user per month. And I know you and I have gone back and forth about per user, per employee per month. And, I think for really large companies that are in 100,000 employees, there's a case for licensing, and, we've even discussed that.
Per active user per month.
But for the purposes of starting this program off, that's where we're at. And that was for Clark. Okay, well, I know we are now 50 minutes in, and we said we'd be 45. So I want to thank you very, very much for attending kind of close to the holidays. We wish you all a wonderful holiday from here in San Francisco. And we hope to hear from you, and would love to work with your companies, yourselves, and your employees to bring something really new and different. Ergonomics guidance software has only been possible to deliver really in the last few years with changes in software and technology that we've been able to do this. So I think it's really cool. I think it's a behavior change tool, and I think that really workforces need it with the the challenges of everyday workforce management that Matt has at Airbnb. Do you want to say the final word, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I would say if you haven't tried, or if it's something that's interesting, Brightday's been really responsive and easy to work with. I definitely recommend you give it a shot. It's unique, I think, in the space for what the software is doing. So I'd highly recommend you check it out.
Cheers, and thank you to PTP for hosting the event.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you all.